Expanding eligibility for child care is a key policy priority. It costs money. It costs money, which is which makes it challenging. But expanding child care eligibility is a top policy priority on a state level. Other state issues, and we are actually since the summit, we've had 2 meetings with the governor's whole team and with our leadership, our co-chairs, to lay these out. We had a whole day meeting with the governor's whole cabinet to lay out our policy priorities, and fortunately, we have an ear. We'll see if we get any action, but we have an audience to try to advance some of these. Child care subsidies is the big one. Looking at state earning of tax credit. So you know the federal earning of tax credit is regarded on a bipartisan basis as one of the most effective anti-poverty strategies. It basically just puts money back into the pockets of the working poor. Real money, $5,000, $6,000 in tax credits in people's pockets for people that are working, right? It has a lot of bipartisan support. It's federal. We have a state earning of tax credit as well, but it's not refundable. So in tax terms, that means that you don't actually get any of the money because many people, low-income people, have very little of a tax. They rarely have to pay taxes, so if they don't get a refundable, I don't want to get into much in the weeds, but it doesn't mean anything if it's not refundable. People get no money. So making it refundable would make it a lot more valuable. It would be more money in people's pockets, but it costs money. It costs money. So we're looking at trying to advance that idea on a state level. The city could also institute its own earning of tax credit. This is an idea that we're certainly considering, because the city could basically augment the earned income tax credit to basically make work pay even more in the city of Cincinnati. Again, it costs money, but it's widely regarded as an effective way to immediately get money into the hands of working families.
Is it done in other places?
Other cities, yes. I don't know off the top of my head. New York, I know, has one. A lot of I have the list, but not off the top of my head. And it's a mix of whether they're refundable or not. Again, that's the key distinction of whether people actually get money. If it has to be refundable. But some cities, counties, states around the country have done this. Yeah. A couple of the other areas that we're addressing with the state, payday lending is actually the one that we're working on right now with the state, because it's expensive to be poor, and the predatory lending practices of check cashing agencies and others, while it meets an immediate need for people to have income, it's usury in a lot of regards, and there's at least some political will to regulate it much more tightly in Ohio, so we're trying to bolster and get behind that kind of effort. Some of the other policy issues that we're concerned with and interested in working on relate to, we got to deal with transportation, right? So we don't know yet what role we're going to play in the ongoing and the forthcoming community kind of debate around the future of Metro and a tax levy, but we know that we have to play a role in really lifting up the importance of we need a transit system that connects people to jobs. It's as simple as that. We know that our current system is inadequate for doing that, and we have to have a voice. We want to have a voice in how that gets shaped and the support the community can show it, because we absolutely need a system that connects people to where the jobs are. And last, housing. Not last, there's some others, but housing is a big one. Affordable housing, availability of it in Hamilton County is a huge issue that can take local, we can act on it locally. On a city level, on a state level, there are efforts that we could make to invest and promote and support affordable housing. So that's an area that we're interested in as well. Finally, and this has been part of the conversations we've had with the state, the criminal justice system, right? You might think like how are these related to poverty, but they all are related to poverty, and the issue of mass incarceration is absolutely related to poverty, because not only does it lock, unfortunately, and from my opinion, unnecessarily lock a lot of people up, but then they're denied opportunity the rest of their life to make any honest living, right? So what do we expect? And it costs all of us a lot of money. So mass incarceration, and there's actually some political will to deal with this. It's bipartisan because it costs so much money, the system. There's a lot of recognition that it's broken. So reducing sentencing for nonviolent drug offenses has been one of the issues that we've asked the governor and the governor's team and expressed our support for efforts to address, because that has a direct line connection to child poverty, to family poverty. So those are some of the policy issues. There are many others. The point, though, is that we're working right now. Our efforts right now have been focused on, because we have an audience with the governor's team, what can we work on right now, and then longer term with the governor's team in Ohio. So most of our focus has been there. We are interested in and want more engagement and input around what are the specific policy actions that we can take on a local level. Obviously, transportation is a big issue coming, but what are some of the other specific policy actions we can take on a city, county level to help move this forward? So we're not at that stage yet where we say, here's the piece of legislation that we're advancing, but we want to get to that point in the near term. Yeah.
What about your the employer? So you work in...
Yeah, that was my next point. That was perfect. You teed me up perfect.
I thought you were finished. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going over too much. Let me hit the next couple quickly. So,
okay. Oh no, this is really great.
So I did I talked about the one-to-one kind of family coaching network system.
Yeah.
Working with families directly. The policy change, and then employer practice change.
Oh,
so
okay.
we're convening. We've already convened an employer roundtable of HR leaders. It's convened by the HR leader from P&G, Kroger's, Macy's, Tri-Health. We've had an initial meeting. We have a bigger meeting in April with other, and especially mid-sized and smaller employers, all focused on peer-to-peer sharing best practices and how to improve employer practices to provide stability and mobility for frontline workers. Because again, the challenge is that our economy is structured such that we have a lot of low-wage, service-oriented jobs, right? And there's a lot of room for debate as to what we should do about that. At a minimum, we can make those jobs better, right? Improve even things like scheduling, aligning to transportation, bus schedules, to providing more training, advancement opportunities, supporting childcare, doing job coaching. I mean, there's a lot of practices that employers have been doing locally that could be shared across others that really provide more stability for people in entry-level jobs. And ideally, mobility. What are the career pathways? How do you learn about how to advance your employees? So sharing best practice across each other. We're also thinking about ways to recognize employers that are championing some of these practices, because we think that our best our ability to drive influence here is really getting employers to push each other and to share practice and to learn from each other about what works. Because frankly, it works and it saves them, it helps their bottom line. That's the case that we want to make to get to a bigger scale, that investing in your frontline lower wage workers so that they retain and grow in your company saves you money, because you're churning through some of these roles in $9 an hour jobs, 200, 300% turnover. That costs, and they know the cost of that, but they expect it's normal business, right? What if you actually kept them a couple years and you invested in them and they grew with you? That actually saves money. And some employers locally are trying to demonstrate that. We want to like call them out and lift them up and help share practice. So that's
Who is doing that?
Well, I just found out last night that actually locally, Wendy's and Kroger are two of the companies that have not signed on to the Fair Food Program, where, for instance, tomato pickers, they're not paying the going rate for tomatoes, and they don't have clean restrooms, they don't have clean water available. Yeah. So that whole Fair Food Program, everybody else pretty much is signed on to it, but Kroger, Publix, Wendy's is the only fast food.
That's theirs.
Yeah. So, it's just simple things like that. You can advocate and you can go to the shareholders meeting and say, hey, wait a minute, this is a simple thing to do.
I mean, there's big things that some are doing. So Tri-Health is, a lot of big employers have tuition reimbursement, right? Typically that goes to mid-level to high professional level folks to go get a better degree, right? They've tested out ways to use tuition reimbursement, not reimbursement, because reimbursement means you got to pay for it up front. So prepaying tuition for entry-level workers to be qualified for their jobs that they have a hard time filling, nursing, and intentionally advance them up. So that's a big policy change that can expand opportunity. But even some small things. So Messer Construction, has started doing, I mean, it's so simple, which is why I love it, right? To address the transportation issue, they pay some of their workers, overtime for half an hour to go pick up 2 other people and make sure they get to work. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
And they make sure they have a full crew for the day, which saves them a ton of money, right? And it also holds each other accountable for showing up on time. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's only, half hour of overtime.
Yeah.
It's nothing for them.
And actually, Meyer, Cincinnati is recognizing Meyer as one of the awardees at the Spencer dinner because they were shown that some of the subcontractors were committing wage theft.
Yep.
And mind us that they immediately took care of, paid the workers and made sure that subcontractor knew if they
Yep.
didn't begin, they were gone.
There's national examples too. I mean, Costco is a great example of a retailer that competes with Walmart and Kroger and others, but does it in a way that, I mean, they invest heavily in their workers, they pay them well, they have great benefits, people stay with them for their whole career. I mean, it's a good example. So we want to start sharing those practices peer-to-peer, and then start using kind of peer pressure in the corporate community to say, here's what we should all be doing. So.
Well, just under the heading of conundrums, it strikes me that the preschool promise and expansion of governmental funding into the preschool world, we're investing in a sector where probably, but I'm guessing, that less than 5% of the employees actually meet sustainable wages.
If that, I mean, it's one of the most lowest paying jobs in our community. So that's why, thanks to a lot of the community work, and Amos was instrumental in this, and many others, we, as part of the preschool promise, built in a $15 an hour wage provision. So all preschool teachers that are getting support from preschool promise dollars have to be paid $15 an hour.